Karen Langston, 41, with natural curly hair tied up neatly, wearing a slate gray silk blouse and dark jeans, walked into the terminal with a confident but unassuming presence. On her wrist was a vintage Cartier watch, a gift from her late mother, and in her hand, a simple black leather handbag. She arrived 2 hours early as always, choosing to stay ahead of everything. On the flight display screen, Flight 2187 to Chicago, boarding, first class. Karen headed to the priority check-in desk. She handed over her ticket and passport. The agent, a woman named Lana Green, glanced at the ticket and offered a strained smile. "Lana. Hello, Miss Langston. You've been upgraded to first class thanks to your priority status. Have a great flight." Karen nodded politely. "Thank you. I appreciate that." She slung her bag over her shoulder and made her way to the gate. Along the way, she spotted an elderly woman struggling with a suitcase tangled in the carpet. "Karen, do you need a hand, ma'am?" Mrs. Martha. "Oh, thank you, dear. This suitcase has a mind of its own, refuses to cooperate." Karen helped lift it past the snag. They exchanged a warm smile. From afar, a sharply dressed man with salt and pepper hair, Russell Whitmore, watched the scene with a sour expression. Karen had seen that look all her life. On board, first class, seat 3A, Karen took her seat and pulled out her phone to check emails. Suddenly, a cold voice cut in beside her. "Russell, I believe this is our row." Karen looked up. Standing before her was Russell and his wife, Beatrice Whitmore, exuding old money elegance with an oversized pearl necklace. "I'm in 3A. Yours are 3B and 3C, right?" Beatrice, smiling without her eyes. "That's correct. I'm Beatrice. This is my husband, Russell." Russell offered no return introduction. He sighed and gestured for Karen to move. Karen stepped aside. As Beatrice sat down, she subtly pulled her handbag onto her lap and clutched it tightly. "Beatrice, better safe than sorry." Flight attendant approaches. Name tag: Mara Bishop Russell. "Miss, is there any chance I could change seats? Are there any others available in this cabin?" Mara looked at Karen, then turned back to Russell. "Sorry, sir, first class is full." She then turned to Karen. "Mara, may I see your boarding pass and ID, please?" "Is something wrong?" "Just a routine check." Karen handed her documents. Mara examined them for longer than necessary before handing them back. Karen noticed they hadn't checked Russell or Beatrice's documents. 5 minutes later, Mara returns. "Ma'am, could I see your boarding pass again, please? This is the second time. Is there a specific issue?" She's been confrontational since she sat down. "We don't feel safe." And her tone, it's somewhat aggressive. Karen remained silent. A chill ran down her spine. After a short exchange, Mara nodded. 2 security officers boarded the plane. Security Officer 1. "Ma'am, please take your belongings and step off the plane." "On what grounds?" Security Officer 2. "There's been a report of disruptive behavior. Please don't escalate things." Karen stood up, composed. As she neared the exit, the second officer leaned in close and whispered. Security Officer 2. "People like you always think the rules don't apply." Karen turned her head, locked eyes with him, said nothing. She stood and watched the plane taxi away from the gate. Phone in hand, she made a call. "Karen, it's me. Pull the investment, all of it, today." Penthouse office, Manhattan, evening. The 72nd floor of a glass tower in the heart of the city. Karen walked into her private office. Minimalist, quiet, efficient. No extravagance, just subtle details. Deep walnut floors, soft lighting, and a single photo on the wall. Her standing beside her mother at her MIT graduation. Waiting by the door was Julius Hahn, her executive assistant and closest friend since college. He handed her a tablet. "Julius, the video has over 2 million views in 5 hours. They don't know it's you yet." Karen glanced at the screen, a clip of her being escorted off the plane, her expression calm and composed. "They don't need to know. Not yet." Julius, looking directly at her. "You know this isn't going to end here, right?" Karen didn't respond right away. She walked to the window, gazing out at the glowing Manhattan skyline, buildings like circuit boards in a living machine, a system she had quietly built and controlled. On the massive screen behind her was a network map of Langston Strategic Ventures, a web of discrete but highly organized holdings. At the center, Aiva Cloud Systems, a software platform used by over 70% of airlines in North America. "Karen, they don't know who really runs Aiva, But now they'll learn what happens when the sky loses its brain. Legal counsel. Nadia, we have legal grounds to revoke their license immediately, under the ethics compliance clause. Aero Sky has violated it. Karen, then do it. At the top floor of a bird-shaped building, Victor Grantham, CEO of Aero Sky, was reviewing the next quarter's expansion plans. Next to him sat Kendra Voss, his sharp-witted communications director, and Carl Hemmings, the conservative CFO. A PR staffer rushed in, tablet in hand. PR staff. We're in the middle of a media firestorm. This video of a black female passenger being removed from Flight 21A7, it's trending on Twitter and Reddit. Victor frowned and took the tablet. He watched the clip, Karen being escorted off the plane in deafening silence. A young black passenger filming, the hashtag flying while black. Kendra visibly concerned. We need to respond. A statement about safety protocols, passenger conduct, something procedural. Carl, and monitor the stock. If there's market movement, we need to get ahead of it. Victor. It's just another video. It'll blow over. Like they always do. That sentence would haunt him for the rest of his life. Karen sat in her home office. On the desk was an old keepsake, a bus ticket from 1997 Alabama, where her mother had once been kicked out of the front row for not being white. A memory Karen never forgot. She touched the ticket gently, recalling her mother's words. Diana Langston, you'll go far, but remember, sometimes you have to stop and draw the line. Karen nodded to herself. She called Julius. Karen, get Samira from strategy. I want a list of every airline that relies on aviaris, and every civil suit filed against Aero Sky in the last 10 years. Julius, already knowing what's coming. How far are you planning to go this time? Karen, far enough that they'll never dare drop someone like me from a seat again. Karen sat across from Julius in her office. The computer screen displayed real-time market data. Aero Sky stock continued to plunge. Under the soft lighting, Karen remained composed, but her eyes were sharp as blades. Julius placed a folder on the table. They've had 8 discrimination lawsuits in the past 10 years. 4 of them involved black passengers being removed from flights. All settled quietly with NDAs. Karen flipped through the pages slowly. A cold expression began to settle on her face. It's time to break that silence. She turned to Julius. Do you remember Aiva? Aiva Grayson? Former head of compliance at Aero Sky? That's her. They silenced her 3 years ago, but she hasn't forgotten. Julius nodded, immediately understanding. He pulled out his phone. In a small apartment in Brooklyn, Aiva Grayson was packing a suitcase. 3 years after being forced out, she had just accepted a job in Seattle, well below her capabilities, but at least still in the industry. Her phone rang. Hello, Miss Grayson. This is Julius Hahn. I represent Karen Langston. She'd like to meet you, as soon as possible. Aiva froze. A name she hadn't heard in years. A woman she had always admired, even without ever meeting her. I signed an NDA. I can't disclose anything about Aero Sky. Miss Langston knows. Our legal team is reviewing the gray areas in your contract, and if you're open to it, we have a special advisory position for you. The salary will allow you to decline every other offer. Aiva was silent for a few seconds, then she answered softly, I'll meet her, but not for the money. At Aero Sky headquarters, quiet chaos was spreading. The airline's internal network was experiencing technical failures. The booking system was glitching. Maintenance schedules were in disarray. CEO Victor Grantham jumped from his seat as the head of tech reported, We're losing access to the flight coordination system. Carl, the CFO, burst into the room pale-faced. We just lost access to Aviaris. They've revoked the license, and they're dumping shares. We're down 8% in the last 3 hours. Victor slammed his hand on the desk. Impossible. We have a contract. The contract includes an ethics clause allowing termination for violations, and we signed it. Victor turned to Kendra Voss, head of communications. Handle the media. We can't let a passenger bring down an entire airline. Kendra pressed her lips together, a glint in her eyes that wasn't fear, but calculation. We need to find out who she really is. Hours later, Karen and Aiva met for the first time. In a small but dignified room, the 2 women sat across from each other, a steaming cup of tea between them. I've followed your story, Aiva. I know they buried your career just because you dared to speak the truth. Aiva remained guarded. They said I didn't fit the culture. But we both know that's just code for too vocal about discrimination. Karen nodded, then slid a contract across the table. I don't want you to destroy Aero's sky. I want you to rebuild aviation from the ashes. Aiva held Karen's gaze. There was something in those eyes that made her unable to say no. Then let's begin. Meanwhile, at a Wall Street trading floor, red numbers flashed across the board. Aero's sky stock dropped another 12% by afternoon. Analysts scrambled. Major investors started pulling out. Whispers began to spread. Who is Karen Langston? Who is she to be able to do this? Back at Karen's Manhattan office, sunlight filtered through the tall windows. On the screen was the internal interface of a secured system named Project Skylight, a platform Julius's team had developed to collect anonymous whistleblower reports from aviation employees. Interface is live, level 6 encryption, fully secure, Julius reported. And the first response just came in. Karen sat upright. On the screen appeared a short message from an anonymous sender. I'm a lead flight attendant at Aero's Sky. For the past 7 years, I've been trained to watch for suspicious behavior, but only when the passenger is black, has a street accent, or dresses too casually in first class. We call them red flag passengers. I always felt it was wrong, but I finally have the courage to speak up. Karen was silent for a long moment. Then she turned to Julius. Tell Aiva, it's time for phase 2. In a modest apartment in Queens, Aiva Grayson was preparing a presentation. She hadn't slept in 2 nights, but her eyes were clear. Beside her sat Trevor Lynn, a seasoned investigative journalist and Pulitzer Prize winner. You sure about this? Trevor asked. More than ever, and I know you'll tell this story the right way. They were preparing to publish a series of investigative articles titled Inside Aero's Sky, Passenger Flagging Systems and Engineered Discrimination. Meanwhile, in Aero's Sky's crew lounge, a young flight attendant named Sarah Jensen scrolled through the company's internal forum. She saw a new headline, Share Your Story, completely anonymous. Sarah hesitated, then began typing. I once saw a black man in a suit sitting in his assigned first-class seat, only to be asked to leave because a white passenger said they felt uncomfortable. I wanted to speak up, but the lead flight attendant reminded me, we need to protect the premium customer experience. The white ones, of course. She had no idea that dozens of her colleagues were doing the same, across offices, lounges, and even flights cruising at 30,000 feet. At Aero's Sky HQ, Kendra Voss was watching the news when an assistant rushed in. You need to see this. On the screen was the first article by Trevor Lynn, exclusive. Aero's Sky trains staff to flag passengers who don't fit the brand image. With leaked documents, training videos, and employee testimony, Kendra stood frozen. There was no fear in her eyes now, only calculation. She knew this wave couldn't be stopped. She turned to her assistant. Send a message to Cameron Voss. It's time we talk about the future leadership of this company. Elsewhere in the city, Karen and Aiva watched the live feed from major news outlets. Messages flooded in, thousands of shares. Trevor's article was spreading like wildfire. Karen looked at Aiva. You've been doing this for a long time, haven't you? I used to think one person couldn't change anything, but maybe all I needed was someone else who believed it too. Well, now we're not just one person, we have a whole crew. In an emergency board meeting at Aero's Sky, the numbers lit up across the screen. Stock down 35% in just 3 days, 70,000 canceled bookings. FAA demands full audit of passenger handling protocols. A flood of testimonies from flight attendants, security staff, and even pilots. The chairman of the board looked around the table. This is no longer a media crisis. This is a turning point for the entire industry. And Victor, you've lost control. Final scene of this segment, a short news clip playing on television. A white mother stands in front of the camera, holding the hand of her brown-skinned son tightly. If they can treat a successful woman like Miss Langston that way, what hope does my son have when he's only 10? The room falls silent. Karen stands before a large screen. Behind her are Aiva Grayson, Julius Hahn, and a team of engineers, lawyers, and aviation specialists. On the screen, the first slide appears. Project New Dawn Airways, a humane, transparent, and inclusive airline, from system design to company culture. Karen surveys the room with a calm but razor-sharp gaze. Aero's Sky chose to exclude us, Not just me, but everyone who doesn't fit their manufactured mold. Now it's our turn to choose back, not just to react, but to redefine the sky itself. Aiva steps forward to present Phase 1. We will build this airline from the code up. A bias-free booking system. Security screenings based on behavior, not suspicious appearances. Flight crew training that centers on dignity, not white premium experiences. Julius adds, the aviation tech we once licensed to Aero's Sky will now be our backbone. But this time, we hold the keys. And we won't sell to anyone who doesn't commit to our ethical standards. Karen nods. We'll call it New Dawn Airways, because everyone deserves a new sunrise, where they're not shut out because of their skin tone, their name, or their voice. Meanwhile, at Aero's Sky headquarters, chaos reigns. Despite being surrounded by advisors and media crisis managers, Victor Grantham remains defiant. I won't apologize. I won't back down. Who is she to tell me how to run an airline? She, says Carl, the CFO, is the person who's wiped $3 billion off our market cap in 5 days. Kendra Voss quietly steps out of the boardroom. In her hand is an audio recording, Victor making a racially charged remark during a private call. She knows this will be the final nail in his coffin. In a small Brooklyn apartment, Henry Grayson, Aiva's father and a retired Aero Sky captain, sits alone watching the news. Karen Langston, revealed as founder and chair of Aviaris, the aviation tech platform behind 60% of domestic carriers. Henry smiles gently. My daughter chose the right woman to stand beside. His phone rings. It's Karen. Captain Grayson, I need someone with heart and hands-on experience to advise New Dawn. Henry is silent. Don't do it for me. Do it for your daughter. For the pilots who never got to fly because their last name was Washington or Ramirez. He exhales deeply, then nods. I never stopped being a pilot. I've just been waiting for the right flight to take off again. Across airports nationwide, the boycott of Aero's Sky spreads. Images go viral. Passengers canceling flights, holding signs, we fly with dignity, not tradition. A mother ripping up a ticket in front of her son, you deserve a better airline. On social media, Trevor Lynn's tweet becomes iconic. Karen Langston didn't just cancel their flight, she grounded a whole era of discrimination. New Dawn is coming. Karen stands atop the headquarters, gazing out over the city. Aiva joins her. You know, Aiva says, at first I thought I just wanted to bring them down, but now I realize I wanted something that never existed, a system that's actually just. Karen smiles. That's why we're building it from the ground up, so we never have to choose between revenge and silence again. This time, we choose rebirth. Then the news breaks on Monday morning. Flight 753 to Denver suddenly drops altitude in 45 seconds. No injuries, but passengers panic. Video captures screaming, oxygen masks falling, lights flickering. The media pounces. By noon, Cameron Voss, interim CEO of Aero's Sky, appears on live TV wearing a grave expression. This incident reminds us that when safety systems are compromised, every passenger is at risk. We urge Karen Langston to stop withdrawing system support and prioritize lives. On the screen, is Karen Langston endangering lives? Karen watches the broadcast from her office, her gaze unwavering. Next to her are Julius, Aiva, and Trevor Lynn, there to film her first on-record interview since the crisis erupted. They're trying to make you the villain, Aiva says. That's the final play of the old system, Karen replies. Scare them into silence. But this time, we have the data. Julius is ready. System logs confirm. The drop wasn't a software failure. Our system functioned at 100%. The error was human. The captain made a wrong adjustment under pressure. Karen nods. Then it's time to break the silence. In a private recording studio, the lights are set. Karen sits across from Trevor. The camera rolls. First question, Karen. Aero's Sky claims you're putting millions of passengers at risk. What's your response? Karen looks straight into the lens. Her voice is calm, like a still lake. I've never endangered passengers, and I have proof. The system developed by my company is still running on Aero's Sky flights. We've kept thousands of flights safe for 12 years, and in yesterday's incident, it was our system that helped stabilize the aircraft. She pauses, then continues. But what they won't tell you is this. Aero's Sky tried to force me to keep providing technology, even after refusing to reform their discriminatory practices. They want power without accountability. The next part of the interview revealed never-before-seen documents. Internal Aerosky emails from 2018 referring to non-conforming passengers as brand risks. Training manuals instructing staff to watch for signs such as regional accents, hip-hop accessories, or athletic wear that doesn't match the assigned cabin. Trevor leaned forward. "So your goal wasn't to take down Aerosky?" Karen replied. "My goal is to stop a system that's forgotten human dignity, and to build a space where everyone is respected, from the gate to the seat." The interview aired at 7 p.m. Within 2 hours, the video surpassed 10 million views. On social media, "I stand with Karen" tashed "Data doesn't lie, who controls the sky now?" A soundbite from Karen's speech went viral on TikTok and Instagram. "They dragged me out of a seat I paid for. Now I'm showing them what it feels like to lose control of the cockpit." At Aerosky HQ, Kendra Voss quietly turned off the TV. The game had shifted too fast. Cameron Voss, now under public fire, turned to her. "What do we do?" Kendra answered flatly. "You're asking the wrong question. The right one is, how did she make our entire system look this obsolete?" End of this segment. Karen calls Henry Grayson, the retired pilot who had just agreed to return as a senior advisor. "Are you ready for the next step? I was once pushed out of the cockpit for correcting a white colleague's error. This time, I want to make sure no one gets pushed out again." Karen smiled. "We're not just opening the cockpit, Henry. We're tearing down the entire cabin and rebuilding it from scratch." At sunrise, in an old aircraft hangar in Newark, New Jersey, a dream takes physical form. Renovated into a temporary headquarters, the hangar bears a new name lit up above the entrance: New Dawn Airways. Built with purpose, flown with dignity. Inside, engineers, pilots, and founders, many from backgrounds the industry once rejected, are preparing for launch. No old uniforms here. Each team member wears a jacket embroidered with their name in gold thread. A small detail, but one that says everything. Every person has value. At the press conference, media outlets crowd the room. CNN, Reuters, Bloomberg, and notably Black Enterprise and Women Who Lead are all present. Karen walks onto the stage. Not flashy, not loud, but the room shifts with her every step. 3 weeks ago, I was dragged out of a first-class seat because I didn't fit the image of that cabin. Today, I stand before you to say, no one gets to decide whether you belong in the sky. Except you. She gestures to the screen behind her. Image, the first New Dawn aircraft, its white body bearing a hand-painted line. Every seat earned. Every story welcome. Karen introduces the leadership team. Aiva Grayson, once fired from Aerosky for not fitting the culture, now Chief Operating Officer. Henry Grayson, a former captain pushed out after correcting a white pilot, now Senior Safety Advisor. Mei Zhang, an Asian-American pilot denied promotion to captain, now Director of Flight Training, and dozens more who had once been labeled off-brand by other airlines. Karen paused, then said, "We didn't just invite them back. We built this airline around the very people the old system tried to erase." She unveiled the next initiative, Future Flyers, a scholarship program for Black youth, children of immigrants, and teens rejected by pilot schools for lacking team spirit, and the Henry and Diana Foundation, named after Karen's mother and Ava's father. 2 quiet warriors who made sure their children could fly higher. As Karen introduced the new flight system, one that doesn't use AI to profile passengers by risk category like Aerosky once did, reporters snapped photos, live-streamed, and quoted her. New Dawn isn't just a new airline, it's a new standard. They kicked her off their plane, she built a better one. Meanwhile, across the city, in an emergency boardroom at Aerosky, Cameron and Kendra Voss watched the livestream. Booking rates plunged another 15% within 30 minutes of Karen's speech. Major booking platforms like Skynet, Booking Air, and SeatHop started pushing New Dawn to the top of search results. Cameron turned to Kendra, face ashen. "Can we issue a counterstatement?" Kendra slowly stood up. "No, she's not just selling tickets, she's selling hope, and we've been selling out trust for years." Final scene of this part. A young black boy, around 10, sits with his mother in New Dawn's departure lounge. "Mom, can I become a pilot?" The mother smiles and points to the pilot's nameplate on the gate display. "Captain Ramirez. At New Dawn, anyone can become a pilot, baby." The camera pulls back to reveal passengers of all skin tones, shapes, and styles, boarding the very first flight. An announcement chimes in. New Dawn Airways Flight 01 to Atlanta now boarding. Group 1, you are welcome to rise. 3 weeks after New Dawn's launch. In Washington, D.C., a special hearing is held before the Senate Committee on Transportation. Presiding is Senator Elizabeth Monroe, who has closely followed the Aero's sky crisis. The nation watches the live broadcast. Seated next to the FAA and executives from major airlines is Karen Langston, stepping up in a navy blue suit to give her testimony. Thank you for being here today, Ms. Langston. Some say you triggered the biggest aviation disruption in 20 years. What do you call yourself? Karen looked up, sharp-eyed but not angry. I'm the passenger who was removed from first class. But I'm also the founder of an airline where people are judged by their character, not by categories. And do you believe you've succeeded? I believe we're just getting started, because equity isn't a policy. It's a standard. And this time, we're rewriting it from scratch. Meanwhile, at Aerosky HQ, the final collapse unfolds. Headlines flash across the screen. CEO Cameron Voss resigns amid mounting scandals. Whistleblowers confirm passenger profiling via unclear algorithms. Aerosky files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. One industry paper put it best. The era of flying elite while fearing equality is over.